How often should you be updating your CV? There is no specific answer to that. There is no best practice necessarily. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, best practice, let me make up some best practice for you. Best practice is every month. Maybe, but who's going to be disciplined enough to do that, especially when you're in role? And this is perhaps the most annoying reality, right? So when you're in role, you're busy doing your work and you don't need a CV. And then suddenly something happens and you do need a CV. And it's when you need it, that's when you should have done it calmly. So it's all very difficult. You don't need your CV until you do. And then when you do, you probably need it tomorrow. This is often how the situations unfold. So my recommendation is try and update your CV at least every few months, at least every half year. Calendarize it. Depends how disciplined you are, right? You put it in the calendar, then try and avoid ignoring that prompt. Okay. Now, why I'm suggesting this, and look, it's easy for me to say, cause, it's always easy to recommend stuff. Doing it, and doing it myself is difficult. But I think it's always useful to be kept match fit. And this is what you can do with a mentor. If you schedule regular mentor sessions, or if you have a career mentor, you can say, look, please, remind me, I need to go through my CV because I don't need to, right? What you should be doing, ideally though, is updating your CV as you go, not so that you're ready for when the need arises, but actually so that you're remembering what you're doing. One of the most difficult things to do is to do a 3-year job and then suddenly have to explain what you did in those 3 years under high pressure. So one of the things I recommend for those doing graduate placements or 1-year graduate courses when they're doing an outplacement in the middle of university is I say every week, also with work experience, by the way, every week, make a note on what you did. Right? Every week, make a note of what you did. I sound really crazy, I know, but I'm not suggesting that for a full-time career, but it's really important to try and remember, and very difficult to try and remember what you did and how amazing you are. And it's when I'm sitting with individuals one-to-one and say, they say, oh, I haven't updated my CV since I got my job 4 years ago. Okay. Right, so what have you been doing? Can you give us a flavor? Well, yeah. So the disciplined amongst us, every period of time is very useful to reflect. What have you been doing in work? What about that big presentation you gave to the board? What about that great project that you worked on for the senior leader? What about that thing you did when you presented that thing? What about those innovation ideas you did? What about that thing that every period of time, it is quite useful to just go, oh yeah, just even note it down on the CV so you can come later on and make a better bullet point later on, right? This is difficult, and if I speak bluntly, the reality is nobody does this, okay? Generally, because you don't need it until you do. Now, there are 2 broad reasons on when you're going to need your CV. One, if something happens, there's a redundancy reality, or you lose your job for whatever reason, you very quickly need to update your CV, okay? So that's the slightly the negative one, right? You've got to do something, right? The other one is when someone in your current role says, would you be interested in a promotion? Or we're thinking about you for this role. And you go, oh yeah, yes. Would you be interested? Yes. Would you send a CV? Now that, both of those are both situations are unexpected. Both need something pretty quickly. This is why it's quite useful to have that discipline. So if you do have a mentor, if there is someone you're speaking with on a regular basis about your career, which I think is a good thing to have, I always have mentors, really valuable, then one of the tasks you can give the mentor is say, you remind me every quarter, let's go through my CV, let's keep it up to date. Because the more that you can be responsive when someone needs a CV, the better. Now, there is another angle here. For those that are doing contract work, those are kind of 6 to 12 month interim roles, they're automatic. They're doing this day in, day out. There's no need to be reminding them. That's a requirement of those types of jobs. But it's really important for the employees, for those that are essentially head down for 4, 5, 6 or whatever years, It's then when you put your head up and someone says, oh, can we see your CV for a promotion or something? Or because you need to have it because something serious has happened career-wise, then that's when it's really useful to be prepared. So here's my do as I say, not as I do viewpoint. Now, look, I because I am doing lots of roles, temporary and short-term ones for banks and fintechs, I typically will have multiple versions of it. I am updating my CV all the time because of the type of roles I'm doing, that usually project work, and they'll say, oh, we'd like to see your CV as well. But generally speaking, when I've been full-time in role, that's been an issue, right? It's just trying to remember what I've done, what I've achieved, and what I have achieved, and then forgetting stuff. Right, it's really difficult. So that's one of the reasons I would, with my coaches or any of the mentoring activity I'm doing, for me in my career, I'd be saying, "Oh, please remind me." And it's annoying. It's annoying when the mentor says, "Let's go through your CV." Go, no, I don't. Yeah, all right, okay, yeah, because it's not. I don't need that at the minute. Yes, but you might tomorrow. Anyway, okay. So do be prepared, and I think that update frequency it's something to be thinking about.